welcome back to On the Rocks here on the Filmaholic channel. This is our unfiltered episode. We take a topic every week and just discuss it, see where it goes. And this week we're doing the Star Wars sequels, what we would have liked to have seen and what that means. So we kind of did this a little bit differently. I did a lot more than you did on this topic. I wrote out a lot of stuff, which I'm not actually going to go into all of this because you didn't do it.
You already had an idea before you told me this was what we're doing.
I know that's why.
So to be fair, that's why yours. You have like literally. You probably have 3 scripts ready. Like, oh, let's go make this in the studio.
Come on, guys. So I just print them off. They're still warm.
Yeah, just retcon everything that's happened. Let's redo it and just mess with people's brains.
Well, to start things off, I would have started my trilogy in 2015, December. My episode 7 would have been called Star Wars Episode 7: A New Order. That would have been my. I like that title. What's up?
A New Hope.
No, it won't play as reminiscence of that.
Yeah.
But this is nothing like A New Hope, because this film.
8.
Yeah, that's my number 8. Is a lot like A New Hope or Force Awakens, whatever you want to say. But my episode 7 would be something that I 100% think they should have made episode 7, and that's because like we needed to see Luke as this Jedi that people wanted. And you can say, well, you're just trying to do fan service. No, it's what I think most people wanted was to see Luke as a functioning Jedi leading his order. And that's what my 7 would be, because the New Order title would be a double thing of Luke's Jedi Order that we're getting to see for the first time, as well as the First Order rising in the background. Now, my First Order would be a little bit differently, because that's another thing where I could critique Force Awakens, and I guess, I still have that movie is one of my favorites right now, and it could change moving forward, because if I want to keep picking problems now that the trilogy's over, is like I didn't like how when we got Force Awakens, the First Order, even though I guess a lot of people didn't like the Republican stuff, didn't really know about them to an extent because they didn't believe Leia and stuff. If you want to look at the canon novels, but they were a powerful force already. Like they had Starkiller Base built in 7, and that was built and destroyed in one movie. It's like, no, I want the First Order to be in the shadows and have them grow stronger and within these films, and start off as more of this like terrorist organizations versus like the Empire.
Yeah. So
that's what I kind of would have in 7. Which this is the most fleshed out of all the movies that I have, because I'm most passionate about this one. And I would bring a lot of the people back. Like this is like my character list right now. Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, Carrie Fisher as Leia Organa Solo, Solo. Harrison Ford as Han Solo. Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian. Although he's only in one part of the movie. That's the opening part of the movie, and that's a de-aging scene with Lando. Anthony Daniels, bringing him back. Ewan McGregor is going to play a Force Ghost Obi-Wan in one scene in the film. James Earl Jones as the voice of Vader. And I'll talk about that in a second. Holly Hunter as Mara Jade Skywalker, who I would have in the film. Adam Driver I would keep as Ben Solo. Billy Lord I would actually have playing Jaina Solo, his younger sister, in the film, and also a Jedi. And then Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron still. But his character would be somewhat similar to what he ended up playing, but a little bit differently. I would have him be more in this film, at least, because this is 4 years before the next film. He's more of just an assistant / bodyguard to Leia in this film. So I really want to focus on them having a better relationship. And then also I still have Daisy Ridley in here, but her character is going to be younger than what she actually would be, because I would have the character be 15 instead of 19 like Rey was. But I kept Daisy Ridley on my list. But I would have her name be Kira, because that was what George Lucas had in his thing, was Kira, so with a K. So I keep her name as Kira. I would have I just kept the name Snoke, but it's kind of its own character, and that would be Snoke. And I have Idris Elba playing him. Not that Andy Serkis was bad, but I have him as my version of Snoke, and Paul Dano as Hux, my version of Hux, and then Paul Bettany is my version of Laura Santeca. Now, Laura Santeca was played by Max von Sydow in Force Awakens, but this is going to be obviously a younger kind of version of that. And he's, instead of being a member of the Church of the Force like Force Awakens, I would have him actually be a Jedi, just another member of Luke's Jedi Academy that we get to meet and see in the movie. And then Hux, I would actually have be a political figure, because a lot of this film would be Leia running for Chancellor, and she would be running against Hux, who is an Imperial sympathizer and somebody who like collects like a lot of artifacts from the Imperial and stuff. And he is being backed financially by Snoke, who is kind of a mysterious benefactor. And then also they would also have like a third person running for Chancellor as well, who I would have that person end up actually winning, and then she is
split the vote,
killed off eventually. But well, what ended up happening, and that I'd want that to be a huge part of the film, is her running for Chancellor, and that's where you draw in. I draw in from other stuff that's happened in canon, but they didn't do in the movies, and it would have been better in a film. And that's Bloodline. Like, take Leia's story in Bloodline, and that's her storyline in this movie, essentially. But you're changing it up a little bit, where eventually it leaks out that she's the daughter of Darth Vader, and that's what sabotages her chances becoming Chancellor. And that also plays into the third act of the film with Ben Solo and his turn to the dark side, which is ultimately the end of this movie. And I would have Ben. Well, the movie. What I have too is I'd have the opening of this film be a year after Return of the Jedi, and you de-age everybody, which this movie isn't the same time as Force Awakens. It's a little bit earlier, so you actually would want to make all of these actors kind of maybe look younger in the whole movie. But the first opening scene, it's going to be a year after Return of the Jedi, and you have two parallel storylines. One is Lando and Luke go on this mission, and you don't know what's happening. They go to this one planet. Luke gets off the ship alone, though, and then you're following him, and then eventually he comes into this area where that's when we're introduced to Mara Jade for the first time. And Luke knows who she is. She's not Palpatine's hand anymore. She actually, and that'll be explained in the movie, how she used to work for Palpatine, but now that he's dead, she's became a smuggler. She's there doing something for that, but he's there for her. And then they get in a saber fight, which ultimately ends with kind of like a draw, and then them looking at each other, and you can feel a connection. And that's one part of that. And then the other part is Han and Leia and the birth of Ben Solo. And like all this is happening at the same time. And then we cut 25 years later to the actual movie. And that's when Ben is actually Mara Jade's apprentice, and his sister Jaina is Luke's apprentice. So a lot of the movie, Jaina and Luke are going to be off trying to find the first Jedi temple with Laura Santeca. Ben and Mara Jade are doing their own separate thing, and then Leia's doing her thing. And he's in the movie, but not very much in this one. He's actually he's off kind of doing his own thing, but he is still married to Leia and everything. But he's like working on pod racing and stuff like that, on like actual like pods and whatnot, and like keep him busy. And during the film, someone is in Kylo's head. He thinks it's Vader, though. He thinks it's Anakin. Well, he thinks it's Vader. He doesn't know. He knows Anakin's his grandfather, but he doesn't know Vader's his grandfather yet. But he keeps hearing Vader's voice persuading him to go to the dark side throughout the movie. And then at the end of the film, when, Ben finds out that Vader's his grandfather and that they've been lying to him and didn't tell him the truth, he goes back to the Jedi Temple. Mara Jade goes back, and they have a heated argument that ends up with her sensing the darkness in him and pulling her saber on him. And then he's like freaked out about it. And then there would also be a scene with him and Snoke when they actually get to meet on Coruscant at some point in the film as well. And because I have whole outline here of different scenes.
I
But
think you have the whole script.
I'm not going to go into all this here. Cut over some of that stuff. But at some point, he had a scene with Snoke. Snoke gave him an advice as well that said, he was pretty much promising him answers and all this stuff. And he's like, if you ever need me, hit this device and I can help. I can come to you, which is actually a tracker.
Is this the Sith Wayfinder?
No, that doesn't exist. Anyway, it's a tracker essentially, which he drops when they get into this heated argument and she pulls the saber on him. And then she picks it up and doesn't exactly know what it is and accidentally presses it or whatever and causes Snoke to find the location of the Jedi Temple. So him and the Knights of Ren or whatever they would be called in this version of his Sith followers would show up. They would start fighting. Snoke would actually go talk to Ben and convince him to turn to the dark side, and they would leave. And then Luke would end up showing back up, and just in time to see Mary Jade killed by the Knights of Ren. And then Luke comes up, fights the main Knight of Ren, ends up killing him, but the others get away. I would also have at some point in the film that Kira, they would come across her, sort of like a Phantom Menace sort of situation where they have to stop somewhere on the way to or from the Jedi Temple. Actually, from the Jedi Temple would make better sense for the overall trilogy, I would think. But because at some point they would go to the Jedi Temple too, and that's when Luke would see the Force Ghost to Obi-Wan, who would tell him, "Hey, you need to go back. I sensed something with Mara Jade and Ben Solo. They need you." And he would have a conversation with him where he would go back. Because Luke has kind of been ignoring Mara Jade talking about the darkness inside of Ben. So that's when they would go back. But at some point, like I said with Phantom Menace, they would stop on Jakku, which would be different. I would want to look more like Mars in my version, where it's more reddish, more rocky. They would stop at this place and come across Kira, who just happens to be a 15-year-old girl they come across who Luke senses is very powerful and wants to bring her to train, which he does, but then once he finds that all this has happened back at his temple, he decides to take her back at the end of the movie and wipe her memory. And then he goes off on his own and disappears, and that's the end of the film. My episode 7. All right, man.
I see you wrote the whole script.
Well, that's why my other movies are less developed, because I spent so much time with this one.
I spent the last 3 months working on this movie.
I was very into this one. I was like, yes. And I actually, to complete my thought, because you're not jumping in here, I don't know what would your episode 7? What would you have liked to? Well, do you want me to finish what my trilogy would be first?
Do whatever you want, man.
My episode.
I just have things I want to see.
I actually would not have done a trilogy. I would have done 4 films instead of 3.
You'll do a trilogy. Like it.
And part of that is because, why did we need only 3 movies? Why couldn't it be more than that?
That's tradition.
Let the past die.
Kill it if you got to.
And that's what annoys me with Lucasfilm and everything, what they're doing, because it's like you want to stick to tradition in terms of we can only make 3 movies. Like that guy came out and it's like, episode 9 would have been better as a 2-part film, but George wanted 3 movies. George didn't want anything that you did in this trilogy. He definitely didn't want you to bring Palpatine back.
Name on it.
So don't go there.
You could have just adapted his trilogy if you'd wanted George's story.
Exactly. But you didn't do that, so I would have done 4 movies, and then that would have been the end of the Skywalker saga. Because to me, that way you have 10 movies in this saga, and I think that would have been really cool, because I would have had my episode 7 like I just pitched, which would be bringing us back. But then you jump 4 years later until the next film. And that's kind of when you get to this overall, you could say, trilogy that goes more connective with 8, 9, and 10, closer, I guess, together. But my episode 8 right now, I have my Star Wars episode 8, Reign of Darkness would be my title, and it would be a lot like The Force Awakens. It's 4 years later, like I said, and I would take a lot from what happens in Force Awakens. Kylo, when he shows up, he's changed. He's got this mask and stuff. He's Vader inspired. All this different stuff like that. Han and Leia are separated. Han's went back to being a smuggler. He's joined back up with Chewie, who I wouldn't even have in Episode 7 at all. He'd be off with his family, doing his thing on Stroke. Kashyyyk. He'd be off on Kashyyyk with his family doing his own thing. But he's met up with Han during these 4 years. They've gotten back into smuggling, and they're also hanging out with Lando, who has a cantina on his a different planet now, which is essentially like Maz. Take Maz out completely, make that Lando's place, which you should have done in that trilogy anyways, and had him fill that role. You have him in there, and Han's pretty much staying there when he's not off with Chewie doing other stuff. And so they're hanging out there, and Leia's leading the resistance with Jaina and Poe by her side. Kylo, like I said, part of the Knights of Ren under Snoke's been kind of training, but he hasn't completed his training. But I would also, in this one, I have Lupita Nyong'o coming in to play another villain in the movie, who is Vila Ren. Taking a little bit of a name here from a character in the Expanded Universe, but changing it up, and having her called Vila Ren. And these are two members of the Knights of Ren who are competing to be Snoke's main apprentice in the film. So they have like a relationship where they don't really like each other, but they're on the same team. And you have that going on. And like I said, a lot of the other stuff in the movie are like Force Awakens. I would have the opening scene of this film be on Endor, and how it had. You're gonna love this.
Man, where are they?
Opening scene, Endor, Kylo's slaughtering Ewoks.
I can't allow you to do that, because you're like, oh no, you can't kill dogs in movies, but you can kill Ewoks. I don't understand.
Slaughtering Ewoks. His members are following him. We follow him. He makes his way to a mausoleum. He goes inside, and there's Vader's burnt helmet in the middle of the mausoleum, and he picks it up, and he has a vision of Vader as he touches it. And then, he gets a message or whatever, so he has to leave. But that's the opening scene, is just him on Endor coming and getting that burnt mask, which he has some other stuff too that we'll see in his room, like different stuff that he's collected involving Vader, or stuff from his past, whatnot. A lot of this other different stuff. A lot of, I don't know, in terms of like final battles of like what the ultimate goal is. A lot of this stuff, I just know things I want to happen within that film as well. I would have it where Jaina goes to see Luke first in this movie. When we see Luke first in this film, it's Jaina going to him and trying to get him to come back and help the Resistance. Just like Poe goes to Tekka in this film, Lor San Tekka, who is actually on Jakku. Luke has sent him there to watch over Kira, kind of like an Obi-Wan Luke thing. So Poe goes to Tekka, and he's trying to get him to come back in because they need the Jedi. Jaina goes to Luke. Luke is like, I'm not coming back. The Jedi need to end. And Jaina ends up finding Ben's lightsaber there, and she ends up taking it, which Kira's going to get later. And then Kylo and everything shows up on Jakku. Lor San Tekka is killed. He's actually killed by Vila Ren, though, who shows up too. Kylo doesn't kill Lor San Tekka. They get in like a sort of saber fight, cuts off Tekka's hand, but he doesn't kill him. He hesitates to kill him, and then she comes in and kills him. Because I want to build up like he's kind of resistant to killing people from his past.
Just like Ewoks.
Fuck the Ewoks, dude.
Slaughtering
them. They are out of here. Just saber.
Probably so you can just see their death even better.
Yeah.
Savage.
Yeah, I would bring Finn in still as a little bit smaller character, but I would still bring him in like he was done in Force Awakens, because I thought that was an interesting idea of a stormtrooper. that has a conscience and turns and goes to the other side. I would keep him in there, and he kind of helps Poe, sort of like in Force Awakens that happens. But I would never have the instance where you think Poe's dead. I would actually, Jaina ends up, after she leaves Luke, she goes to Jakku to see Tekka, and because she knows Poe has disappeared, finds that Tekka's dead. She ends up meeting back up with Kira, and then you get a part of the movie where it's like Kira, Jaina, Poe, and Finn are off on a mission together. They end up getting to where Han is. They meet up with Han. First Order shows up there. Blah blah blah. We have all this different stuff happen. The Resistance in this film, I actually want to be on Naboo. We're going back to Naboo, and that's where the Resistance is hanging out. And I want a scene. The first scene we see with Leia in this movie before Han and everybody shows up is her. What's the face?
Where's Jar Jar, bro?
I don't know yet. I'm not sure how the Gungans factor in yet. That's a little bit of thing I was thinking about after when I was moving on to the other films, and I was thinking about this before we did the video. I was like, I didn't include the Gungans, and I want to include them somehow because, yeah. But the first scene we see with Leia is at Padme's tomb. I would want to see a scene there, acknowledging that, and she's in thought, and then she senses that Han and them are back, and then she goes and talks to them. A lot of other stuff, kind of like plot points, like Force Awakens. I wouldn't have Starkiller Base in this movie though. That's why I don't really know. I do think I would bring in more Death Star technology, but I wouldn't have the base. So what I actually liked something with Rise of Skywalker when they were like, oh, these starships have miniature Death Star technology.
All of them.
Well, that was stupid. But I would take that away, and I would be like, hey, this one Star Destroyer has miniature Death Star technology. Like we've made it smaller, and we've been able to put it on the ship so we can travel more places with it. So actually, that is a part of this film. So Naboo is it's fucked up at the end of this movie.
God.
Yeah.
Gungans are out.
They are out, dude. But that happens at the end, and so overall, like the end of this movie, you would have, battle over Naboo in space with the Star Destroyer. Well, actually, that ship wouldn't be there yet. It would just be normal Star Destroyers, and they would have this battle. That's what happens at the end of the battle, and Hux isn't there yet. And eventually, at the end, Snoke's like, "Hey, it's time for us to go in and show our technology." So then he pops in from hyperspace with the Death Star tech and fucking starts taking out Naboo. And that's the end of the film. But that's once people are off Naboo and leaving. But, you have Kylo comes down. Han's not going to make it. We still have the scene from like Force Awakens between Han and Ben on Naboo. He dies. Jaina gets Leia to a ship so she can get off Naboo and go and tell the Republic what's happening. They have this technology because they found that out at some point, and just to get her off safely. So they go to a different place that's different from the actual hangar where they're looking, and they get Leia off the ship or off the planet. And then Vila Ren shows up, and her and Jaina have a lightsaber fight, which ultimately ends with Vila Ren dead. She dies. And then you have another sort of situation where it's like kind of like the Rey, Finn, Kylo fight, but it's like that with these characters on Naboo. But it ends with her cutting Kylo's face and then force pushing him in, because at this point they're outside. She force pushes him into the mausoleum where Padme is, and it like crumbles down on top of him. And then they run to get in the Falcon. They're out of there. And then Snoke's like, tells Hux, bring the ship in, get Kylo off the planet, and destroy it. So that's what happens. And the last scene with Kylo, as he's leaving in the ship going back up into space, we see he has the necklace that Padme had on her when she was buried. So he took it out of her tomb.
He just grabbed that while he was knocked out.
Huh? No, he wasn't. He was knocked in there, but like he woke up, and then before when they came and got him, and then he took that. And that's going to go in his collection along with the Vader mask and whatnot. And that's pretty much the end of that movie. And then I would also have it where Jaina and Kira go to the island at the end, and we see them show up to talk to Luke, and that's kind of the end of the movie. That, as well as The what?
Huge crane shot.
I don't like that crane shot.
Let's just waste some money with that shot.
No. But that would be one of the last scenes. You would also have Finn taken to the new resistant base, which would be on a completely new planet, with Poe watching over him. I would actually do that relationship in this series, the Poe and Finn relationship. And then also one of the last scenes would be a droid working on Kylo's face when he's taken back up to his ship, and Snoke appears and says, "Hey, come to Moorband to complete your training," which I'm bringing Moorband, which for some reason was never in the actual movie, which is like the Sith planet. We're bringing it into the trilogy. That's where Snoke is going to train Kylo.
That's where he needs the Sith Wayfinder.
The Wayfinder's not my trilogy, dude.
Well, you don't have a trilogy.
No, I have 4 movies. And the next movie would be called Star Wars Episode 9, The Last Jedi. Which is also kind of like The Last Jedi in terms of stuff happening in the film. But a little bit differently. So this movie actually, like, it opens exactly where the last one left off, with Leia. Also, I would show in the end of my episode 8, Leia, after she's told her the Republic, I would show her getting there, telling the Republic, and then I would show a scene with her in their home on Coruscant, mourning Han, like looking at something of his and just saddened. This film would pick up kind of right after that, but she's left Coruscant and went to the Resistance. And the First Order shows up with that Death Star tech and wipes out the Republic, opening the movie. And then Jaina telling Luke he needs Kira, need to train her. He refuses, so Jaina decides to train Kira herself. They're on the island, though. So, and then Snoke gets Kylo to Moorband and starts training him. And then we jump a year later in the film, and the rest of the movie takes place a year later. And Jaina and Kira have been on the island with Luke, but not talking to him that much, and they've been training. And then eventually, and during the film, Jaina gets Luke to help her complete Kira's training. And obviously, Snoke's going to train Kylo, get him really a lot stronger. I would also have Snoke reveal to Kylo in this film that he is actually Darth Plagueis. Do that.
Darth Plagueis, dude.
And that's something I'm going to have him teach Kylo is like how to cheat death and stuff like that. Like I said, you're going to focus on the Poe and Finn relationship. And they're going to have their own storyline in the movie where they have to go on a mission. And that's where we're introduced to another character that would be a blend of like Rose and whatever the character was in Rise of Skywalker, where we see another character who's a stormtrooper rebel. And that's when she teams up with Finn and Poe, and she will be in 2 movies.
Billy Dee's daughter.
I would have that happen in the movie, but I would set that up in the last movie, episode 8. Well, not the creepy scene, but I would actually I would set that up in the last film when they go to that the bar, and Lando is talking to Finn, and we see he's kind of sympathizing with him. We don't know that he had a daughter. He doesn't say that, but he kind of sympathizes with the fact that Finn was taken as a kid. So we're setting that up for like in episode 10 when we bring Lando back, and we've had her in 2 movies now. We set that up for that to be reveal by the end of it that he's the father. But yeah, we have the movie out kind of play out more like that, like Last Jedi, because I think Last Jedi has some really great stuff in there. I like the Force Skyping stuff, and I'd have that with Kira and Kylo. I like that a lot. Keep that in there. I keep the throne room scene. I would keep Kylo killing Snoke. I would still have that be in the film.
Plagueis.
Well, yeah, by that point, we would know that he is Darth Plagueis. And I would also have him reveal to Kira, my version. I would have him reveal that in the throne room scene that she's not, Palpatine's dead. He's not coming back. But it's revealed that she was created by the dark side. Like Anakin. But we don't know who created her. That she was created by the Force, using the Force by someone, and it was the person that did it was a dark side user. So we have that happen. And then we go to another planet. Scene kind of plays out like in Last Jedi between Kylo and Luke, but Luke is actually there. He's not him projecting or whatever. Luke is actually there with his green lightsaber. Him and Kylo have a small sort of exchange, and then Luke does become one with the Force, like Obi-Wan did in A New Hope. And then I would also have Leia die in this movie as well. I'd have Luke and Leia both die around the same time. I would have Luke go out that way with Kylo, and I would have Leia go out a sort of way like Laura Dern's character in Last Jedi did, where she does sacrifice for her people and dies. And Luke and Leia came into the world together, and they're going out at the same time as well. I think that is beautiful. So we're having that happen, and then the last scene with Kylo, and I'd want to be in the movie, would be like, I like the scene with him and the dice, so I would have him probably have the dice, pick up the dice in the movie, but I'd actually have him go into Leia's room at the base, and he's like looking around at her stuff, and that's when he finds the dice, and that's like the last scene with him in the movie, and then we see the rest of them going off into space to find a new base. And then we get to my final film, which is Star Wars Episode 10, Balance of the Force. What's up?
I don't like the title.
Why?
I don't know. It's the only title I haven't liked so far.
Balance of the Force is what I have it right now, and that's because ultimately, like you were mentioning before with the Gray Jedi, that's the end game here. That's what I want to happen.
That's what you should call it. Star Wars Episode 10, in game.
I haven't heard that one before.
Much, much better.
And this film would be 3 years after the last movie. And during that time, Kira and Jaina have started a small new Jedi Order somewhere. I'm not sure if it'd be on the Jedi Temple place or not, or if they would come up with a new place. Kylo, I'd be kind of doing like the Duel of Fates storyline. But this is something I've wanted him to be doing the whole trilogy. Like, Kylo at this point is he's taken over as Supreme Leader, and he's living on Mustafar and Vader's castle. And that's where his shit is. The Knights of Ren return. They were sent away in one of the last movies to investigate the unknown regions. They've returned. They tell him they found something out there. And then you kind of do some stuff which I thought worked in The Rise of Skywalker, where that happens. They tell him they found something, and he goes to figure out what it is. What out there is stronger than me in the unknown regions. And then he finds it, and he kind of starts fucking with the guy, kind of like Kylo did with Palpatine. But this isn't Palpatine. This is actually an ancient Sith who cheated death, much like Plagueis. But he's not Plagueis either, and it's a brand new dark character, stronger than we've ever seen of any other Sith before. And he's actually the one who created Rey and Anakin. And that's revealed in the film. And he had some kind of connection to Snoke as well, but I'm not sure because that's the last one I didn't have. What's that?
Kira and Anakin?
Yes. And I'd have that be revealed to tie the whole franchise together, which doesn't make that weird if Kylo and Kira have a relationship, because he's not the father of them. He just created them with the Force, much like a scientist would create something. I don't know, like it's not like a biological creation. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but he created them with the Force, and that's revealed. He wants Kylo to join him. Kylo acts like he will, pretty much, to get out of there alive, hold it together. You find out that he had been involved with Snoke as well, or Darth Plagueis, and that he was the one doing the Vader voice, all of this the whole time, helping him turn to the dark side. And that's all I really have so far with that last film. I know that as well, you would have Luke reappear at some point as a Force ghost in this movie. I would have actually all of the main Jedi that we've had in the past return as Force ghost in this film. At some point, I think I would have Kira turn to the dark side for a bit. At some point in the film
like
as well.
One movie or just part of the movie?
Part of the movie. Early on, and pretty much right after this scene with Kylo, I would have it where he goes to talk to her, and then she ends up going to talk to this guy because she wants answers about what she was created, and she is somehow convinced to turn to the dark side. Is what I'm thinking right now, because I kind of want to see that for a little bit, even if it's something where she's like is mind controlled or something. I don't know yet what I would do because I didn't finish that completely out, but I think I'd want to have her turn to the dark side a little bit. I would finally have a fight scene with Kylo and Jaina in this film because we hadn't seen that yet. Brother and sister fight. After Kira turns to the dark side, Jaina's like so upset about it that her and Kylo comes, and at this point he's still supreme leader, but he's like wanting to get away from it. You know, he doesn't want to lead this army anymore, and that's when they fight, which ultimately ends with him doing something, because at some point I want to show that he had learned power to save people from dying and stuff. So maybe it's something to do with their fight, brother and sister fight, where he has to heal her, he has to heal himself, something like that. And he ends up getting Kira back to the light as well in the film, and they have to, by the end of it, team up together to defeat this ancient Sith. And also I would have it where Hux pretty much, while Kylo's doing this stuff on his own, pretty much with the Force and with Kira and Jaina and all this, when he's doing all this stuff, Hux is himself gaining control of the First Order and becoming the leader, undermining Kylo and all that, making his character stronger than it was in this actual trilogy, doing that. But even though he ends up becoming the leader of the First Order on his own, the First Order is defeated in this movie by the Resistance. That happens. That's the whole other thing that's happening off on the side. While they're doing this stuff with ancient Sith, they defeat the First Order and win that battle. And then by the end of the movie, Kylo would start the Grey Jedi. I'm not sure who I would kill in terms of the new characters who would die by the end of the movie, but I know
Kylo.
I would not kill Kylo. No, I would have him. The First Order's gone. He's no longer a part of that. But instead, he would start the Grey Jedi and go off on his own, while Kira is leading the actual Jedi, like the regular Jedi. And I'm not sure about Jaina yet. I'm not sure if I would end up having her die at the end in one of the fights with she comes with them to fight the Sith, because I don't have a name for him, but she ends up dying then, or if I'd keep her alive. I'm leaning towards I'd probably have her end up dying, but I'm not sure. And then I would have
like any kind of redemption at the end, or is he still Kylo?
I mean, in a way, he's redeemed enough for Kira that he helps her turn back to the light. But it's in terms of an audience redemption, maybe not. I want him to stay true to who he is, and I still want to have this romantic, forbidden relationship between him and Kira in the movie. Even when he goes off on his own to start the Jedi, and she does this, you still have this love connection there between the two, even if they're not married or whatever. Like, you still have that there. That way, if we ever made an episode 11 or down the line, you could have it where they ended up having a kid or something. But yeah, that's my my sequel.
Oh, sounds good.
Well, out of breath.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I'm just listening. Like I said, I don't have like a full outline because I think it should have ended with the Return of the Jedi. Perfect ending. I don't necessarily say if I never got another Star Wars movie like after that in the Skywalker saga, I'm fine with it. Perfect ending. Like I say, I like 7 and 8 a lot. I've only seen 9 once. I have it. I'll get to it.
You're gonna watch it Monday? Well, you have it, so you can watch it anytime.
I can watch it anytime. Well, I think I put it on the app. You can watch anytime. Or it's on Disney Plus. It's not on Disney Plus.
Well, we're doing this before it comes out. On May the 4th, it's going to be on Disney Plus.
Yeah. So you can watch it.
I might watch it Monday or last Monday. Because I've only seen it once. I don't like it, but I may rewatch it again just to see it. But, even that film, like I said, I drew from it with my episode 10. Like, I like the scene, but that's out of context, and I don't like that it's Palpatine. But the idea of, like, Kylo pissed off, wanting to find answers and going off to this planet that looks really cool, really creepy, and he finds out this guy has been... What'd you say?
With the Sith Wayfinder later on.
It should have been a holocron.
I know that's your favorite favorite part of the movie.
And it's just so much stuff, and it's like I hate that, and that's why I would not do that with my trilogy. It's like I know some people were upset. Like I don't know. Like part of me too, when when they were announced this trilogy was like, and they started casting people. I think like a lot people thought, including myself, that we were going to get an adaptation of the expanded universe. Like with Jaina and Jason Solo, which I drew from, but change it, like you can draw from that. And I think they should have drew from it more than they actually did. And cause they don't know what they want to do. They draw from names and they draw from like different stuff, but then they're like, oh, we don't want to do too much fan service, but it's like draw from some stuff, keep the characters,
a lot of fan service,
but not in a good way. And that was in Rise of Skywalker because of 8.
A lot of service.
Like a lot of stuff I agreed with in this trilogy, like killing Luke, what have you. Like I still did that in mine, killing Han. I even killed Leia before she dies in
Her death was garbage, though.
Well, it was, and it was awful. And it's like if she had died the way Laura Dern's character died at the end of Episode 8, it would have been so much more impactful. And you could have had her and Luke go off at the same time.
Yeah.
And then if you had, they didn't know what was going to happen, but then it would have been so much easier putting her in 9 after she had passed away in real life, which actually no, because you shouldn't have put her in 9. Why is Leia a Force ghost? When did she know how to learn? When did she learn how to become a Force ghost?
We were told that she was becoming a Jedi in Rise of Skywalker.
No, she didn't want to become a Jedi. She wanted to focus on her political career because that's who she was.
I don't know. Like I say, I like each trilogy. Overall, I have problems with movies, here and there, whatever. But Return of the Jedi, I think, was the perfect ending for that saga. Like I say, I'm fine with watching if you want like Star Wars stories. Like I love Rogue One. Solo's all right. It's just forgettable to me because I feel like that was fan service. I know you like it a lot.
I do.
But like I say, that to me, like I could have done without that movie because you didn't give me anything. You gave me Kira and Maul, but I'm not getting anything else out of those characters.
Well, you should though.
So ultimately, you gave me nothing.
You should get more than that, and that was my.
But it's not going to happen.
And I don't know, even when I was like planning out these movies that I would do, if I had controlled Disney, and it's hard to say that because a lot of stuff from this movie, my episode 7 probably would have been the same regardless because I didn't draw that much from the other movies for 7. But for especially my 8 and 9, I drove from Force Awakens to Last Jedi, different parts that I liked of what I think would have been cool. But I don't know. I lost what I was saying. Oh, about Solo. It's like I before Solo came out, I agreed with you. I don't think it was necessary to have a Han Solo movie, even though he's my favorite character. I didn't know what you were going to tell me that I needed to know in this movie. But the movie came out and I really liked it.
I don't have a problem with it. Like it's a 4 stars. Like, but to me, it's the most forgettable out of all the Star Wars movies.
Or is that because?
Just because
you haven't seen it as much too.
Well, no,
because I've seen it a lot too, or good amount.
You've only seen it like 3 times.
I've seen at least 4.
I don't know. To me, like
I'm pretty sure it's 4 times.
Check it out. Well, you saw it.
My letterbox.
Maybe 4. I know you saw it opening night and then once with me.
I saw it 3 times in theaters. I saw it once with you, once with Joseph opening night, and then once with Sarah. And then I've seen it at least 3 or 4 times at home. So
I don't know. I just like I say, I just thought it was forgettable. Like I can remember the movie. I'm sure I think I've seen it. I've seen it twice, once, twice. I can't remember how many. I think I watched it when it came out, when I bought it, but I can't remember.
To me, it's one of the. It's up there near. It's not my favorite. I mean, obviously I like. There's the original trilogy and like. I don't know. It's probably about in the middle in terms of my favorites, but I think it's one of the most easily watchable ones.
I would agree with that, but
you would or wouldn't?
I would. Like I think, it's easy to watch because you don't have to watch any of the others.
Yeah.
I could just throw one solo right now, and when it's over, be like, all right, cool. I can go to sleep.
Yeah.
Like if I throw on A New Hope, it's like, well, maybe not right now, but tomorrow I'm gonna watch Empire and Return of the Jedi. I mean, same thing. Even if I throw on Phantom Menace, like I don't like Attack of the Clones, but I want to watch it so I can get to Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is easily that, like, especially it's got Woody Harrelson. Should have had a different Han Solo.
I like him. Would I have chosen if I was making a movie? No.
I would not have. He would not have been on the short list, especially after the only thing I've ever seen him in. Get out of here.
I would have cast Ansel Elgort.
Yeah. Thought he would have been much better, more charismatic.
But I thought Alden Ehrenreich did a good job. I didn't mind it. Watching the movie.
I don't know. It's just for me.
Because I was thinking about, I've planned these 4 movies. What Star Wars stories would I have made in between these movies? Because if you're asking me now, I'm gonna say a solo movie because I liked what they did with it, and I could make a solo movie. I could make a whole trilogy because now I have in my head what I would like to see is in terms of a solo trilogy, but not all solo movies. You have Solo, then you have a Crimson Dawn movie with Kira and Maul, which then ends with her going off on her own and then Maul going off in his direction that would lead into Rebels, and then you have a third film which you could call Maz Eisley or whatever that would bring Solo back, or bring Han back, bring Kira back, finish off that story between them. Also throw in Boba Fett for a small role, Jabba, show the job with him, what happened there, all of that, and then you have a complete trilogy. And I'd actually probably have Kira die in there because that's why.
I think you'd have to have Kira die.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't call her Kira anymore, right?
No, because I would already have that name used, so I would call her something else.
Call her Rey.
Maybe.
Switch it up, dude.
I don't know. I would probably look at 2 like expanded universe and see if there was any characters that was sort of like Kira that I could use the name and play, homage to there. But I would probably do that. I would do that as a trilogy, and then I would also do a Kenobi movie because I would have that be my first standalone movie that I would have done.
Yeah, you're not getting that show.
And then I also would have done a Vader movie.
Yeah. Where is Knights of the Old Republic? Is what I want to know.
In terms of my universe or
in
reality?
Makes it. Keanu Reeves. I told you.
I don't know about that, but I do have a whole nother series of films I have planned and outlines that take place at the very beginning of Star Wars, but that's for a whole nother episode.
Yeah. Like I played the game. I only played it once.
This would be before Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh man. Oh.
Yep. It's the first Jedi.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yoda in there?
No, before him.
Before Yoda. Damn.
Before him. You're getting Florence Pugh in there.
Well, you can't have her in Your New Hope then.
Well, that's a difference. That's a different thing. I don't want to remake A New Hope. That's a what if thing for here.
That's already happened anyway.
I would have for that trilogy that I'm talking about at the very beginning, I would have Florence Pugh and Christian Bale.
That's an age gap.
It's not a romantic storyline.
Oh.
God, man.
Just get Zach Braff. Make it real.
It's not a romantic storyline.
Oh, Master and Apprentice.
Not really. I would have my first movie in that trilogy be heavily inspired by like X-Men First Class in terms of the Jedi.
Now you got me.
Yeah. I want Christian Bale.
Suck.
What?
Sequel's probably gonna suck.
I want Christian Bale to be a lot like Magneto. And then her be her own kind of thing. Sort of like Xavier in terms of like their roles.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's what my pitch is for that.
Darth Bale.
I would have the trilogy end with him leaving the Jedi Order, and I don't know if he would go and start the Sith, or if he would just go off on his own and do his own thing, but leave the Jedi Order.
I haven't decided if I'm going to watch anything on Monday though.
Well, see, I can watch Rise of Skywalker since it's going to be on there, and I haven't seen it but once, just so I can talk more shit about it.
I have it on my movies anywhere, don't I? So you can watch it anywhere.
Yeah. Because if I watch anything else, it's going to be Phantom Menace, and then I'm in a whole thing there. Then I'm a whole like, and now I got to watch all these movies. But I also think I thought about, I was like, I could watch Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, and then I could start Clone Wars.
Yeah.
But then I'm also watching these Marvel shows.
Well, see, that's why I didn't even start my Star Wars marathon, because I was like, I looked at how many episodes there were of Rebels and Clone Wars. That's the next 2 years of my life. Especially when you were like, oh, you trying to do a Office rewatch? Well, you got me. Before it leaves Netflix, yeah, I guess I could do that. And then by age 24, I started back on. Like, there's so many marathons.
You want to do Marvel again?
Yeah. That one, I think I'm going to wait till Black Widow at this point, because A24 is just draining me of all my energy.
Yeah, I don't know why you're still going. But all right, we'll continue this after the video. But yeah, do you have any more thoughts? Because have you really told me what you wanted for this trilogy?
Well, no, I told you, like, the only thing, like, say, I still, like I say, I would kill Han off and Leia. I would kill all three. I would kill all the main characters from the original trilogy.
In the first movie?
Not in the first movie, but I mean overall.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to have your own trilogy, that doesn't need to be your main focus. You need to get rid of that overall so people can relate more. Because if you're going to watch new movies with characters, like, well, I just want to see more of Han Solo or Luke. No, I don't. You got to get rid of that, early on. Like I said, I do want the Grey Jedi. Like, I think I would, if I was making my own, I think I'd have a higher presence than you would. Like, I think I would have that in the movie, rather than like,
you'd what?
Like, I would think I'd have that earlier. Like you said, yours was like the end of the movie. He was going to make his own Grey Jedi.
Yeah.
I think I would have that earlier on. I don't know what else I would do though. As far as like a villain, like I would have one overall villain, whether it was like a Snoke character or Plagueis, somebody. I wouldn't just have them kill them and bring back somebody else. That's terrible. Let the past die.
Yeah.
But then I haven't read any of the books to draw from like you have.
But it's just like then some of the things I'm like most passionate about is like I definitely think they just fucked Leia's character in the sequel trilogy.
With Anakin.
Well, Anakin too, in terms of the whole thing.
It doesn't matter who you are. It's
which that's another thing I forgot to leave out that I want to mention on as as far as Force Ghosts and everything. Like I said in my episode 7, I want Kylo to be hearing Vader's voice, but then we find out that was later someone else messing with his head. In episode 7, we see one Force Ghost on the first Jedi Temple, and it's with Luke, and it's Obi-Wan. Episode 9, we see another Force Ghost. I don't think we see any in 8. The episode 9, we see the next Force Ghost. It's Yoda talking to Luke again. And then that's episode 10. Well, I said everybody. So episode 10, I want to bring in all these different Force Ghosts talking to different people. I want Anakin to come in this movie and talk to Kylo. I want Luke to talk to Kylo in this movie and haunt him at first, and then you have Anakin talking to him later. I would have a scene sort of like I would want a scene sort of like the scene in Rise of Skywalker when Kylo makes the decision, but I would have his decision, be more gradual throughout the film of him not just turning to the light, because I said he's becoming a gray Jedi. He's not getting necessarily the big redemption arc that you might think.
Yeah.
And I would have that, but I would have him leaving the First Order and all this stuff be a thing throughout the film. But in a certain decision where he, decides to leave the First Order or whatever, I would have a scene similar to the Rise of Skywalker one, but I wouldn't have Han in it. As much as I love Han, and I do love, that is my favorite scene of the movie, it didn't make sense. I mean, he's not a Force ghost, so really in terms of that movie, it's just Kylo imagining that.
Yeah.
Which it's sad, and it's maybe
you cried. Huh? You cried.
I didn't cry because I was so pissed off, but throughout the whole movie, that I was like, I finally felt a bit of emotion. I was like, oh man.
Which just got beside me, wasn't on his phone.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, just start like fucking attacking him. No. I would have that scene sort of happen, but I would have it be Anakin that shows up instead of Han.
Yeah.
And be like, you need to change your ways, sort of type thing. And then I would also have some sort of scene at the end where all of these, because I like when Rey is at the end, in Rise of Skywalker, when she hears all the voices, I thought that was a cheap thing. You're like, oh, you're gonna bring him in just to hear their voices. No, you should have showed all of them. They all should have been Force Ghost, all showing up and standing behind her.
Nope.
He didn't do it, and it was lame. Like I said, I wouldn't have had her be the only one to do it. I would have it be a joint thing between her and Kylo that they both defeat this guy.
Kylo got pushed off the cliff.
Well, that's not happening to mine. Because that's what I'm saying. It's like the balance. You need the balance, and that's what would happen. They would defeat him, and then he would go and start the Gray Jedi and not have a weak death.
Friendship kiss too, not romantic.
No, that was romantic. I don't
know
what to say.
That's not what the.
That doesn't make. I don't know, man. Friendship kiss. Who kisses their friends like that?
That's what happens. If you die, just don't expect it.
Oh man, back off. Leave my body the way it
is. You're just gonna have to die. I couldn't imagine. That was a friendship kiss, dude. That's what they said.
Yeah, that was lame. Yeah, that would be my series, and I think the Naboo stuff would be really cool, because I'd want to do too something that I don't think they did in this new trilogy is like. This new trilogy, it's like they seem to really want to go back to these old planets from the original movies, like really, really bad. But also not. They just wanted to recreate these planets, give it a new name, and pretend it was original.
We like the way it looked, but we don't want to connect back to it at all.
No. No. It's like Jakku. That's a cool name. Just make it look like Tatooine.
Jakkuween. That's what we like.
That's where I'm like, it would be so much cool. Like, make it Mars, like, make it rockier, make it red, make it like more the sky reddish, make it more scary looking. That's what I would have done. But then I'd like to bring back original movies too from the prequels that I would like to see a modern take on, and that would be really cool to revisit, like Naboo. I have that in my episode 8, the ending of the movie. Resistant base is there. You get to see Padme's mausoleum that we haven't seen. Leia acknowledging that that's her mother.
Or even like Mustafar, you got to see it, but we weren't told. We get to see one clip. Like, no one knows that was Mustafar until you told us.
Well, not only a reason that you don't know it's Mustafar is because if you don't know a lot of you haven't read everything in canon, which they usually don't pay any attention to at all.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know about the climate change there.
Yeah. I didn't.
So,
And even if you did, you wouldn't have thought about it because it's like really quick.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just here for the fun.
Like I said, I would bring in Morband too in this trilogy. The Sith planet from Clone Wars, expanded universe. Bring that in.
Nope.
Tie it, you know. Nope.
You get nothing.
Not doing anything. But yeah, that's my version of the sequels. Ethan's input a little bit there.
I think you should change the title of that last movie. I don't like the word balance. I don't know. Seems weird.
What?
When you said the balance of the force, I don't like that.
Oh, from what I pitched from that movie, what would you call it?
I don't know. I was literally busy. Like I was looking up synonyms for the word balance.
Change it. Just change it.
I don't know. I don't like the word balance. It just sounds weird. Not for me.
I don't know. I like it, but I would be open to changing the title. But as long as it had sort of the same meaning, because that's what I want. Like, you know, just you have to have the balance. That's the overall point of the trilogy, or the whole series, the whole saga is you need balance in the Force. And while I think Anakin was the chosen one and did that to an extent at the end of Return of the Jedi, I don't think he fully did it because I think they have a very different meaning. Like in terms of balance, it's equal, you know. Like, and I think the Gray Jedi is a good substitute for the Sith in terms of that. But well, I think the Gray Jedi is equal pretty much. But like, you know, if you just have the Jedi and you don't have anything else, how's their balance? You just have one.
And I think that the only reason like you didn't get that is because 4, 5, and 6 were the first movies George Lucas made. I think if he had made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it would have been an equal balance.
How so?
Well, I mean, 6 wouldn't have been the third movie for one, so he would have had time to develop exactly what he wanted.
What do you? So you think Luke would have became a Gray Jedi?
Yeah, I think it would have been more like Luke would have realized that you shouldn't have either one; it should be an equal part. But obviously, 6 was the third movie, so there's that.
Interesting. Yeah. All right, guys. That's our episode of On the Rocks here. We'll be back next week. We have this every Wednesday. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel.